Welcome to a video on linear regression. In this video, we will learn how to use Desmos to produce a linear regression model used to describe how value of an investment changes over time. Let's get started. All of the graphs used in this video are linked in the video description below. Please use the links to follow along with this video. For this problem, we are given a table of data. The data shows the value of an investment in dollars, X years after 1990. So in this table, on the left column, we see X, which is the number of years since 1990. These values range from 1 to 16. In the next column, we have the value in dollars, and the numbers range from $7,833 to a little over $13,000. Let's use the graphing tool to determine the linear regression that models the set of data. There are a few ways that you can insert the data into Desmos. I'm going to go ahead and select my data from this table and copy it using Control-C or Command-C, and then I'm going to paste it into a table in Desmos. Let me show you how to do that. Go over to desmos.com and click on the button to open the graphing calculator, or from the Math Tools menu, select Graphing Calculator. Our first step is to insert the data into a table. There are two ways you could do this. You can go over to the left-hand side, click on the plus button to add an item, and select Table. You could then insert the data manually into the table. If you've copied your data from a table, you can paste it into the cell on the left-hand side by either using Control-V or Command-V. When I attempted to paste my data into a cell, Desmos actually inserted this into a list instead of a table. But to perform linear regression, we're going to need our data in a table. Since this happens to students on a regular basis, let me show you a workaround here. Let's go ahead and delete the list. I'm going to go ahead and open a spreadsheet program like Google Sheets or Excel, and I'm going to use the same command, Control-V or Command-V, to paste my data into a cell. Now that I have my data into a spreadsheet, I'm going to go ahead and select the data again, and I'm going to click Copy. I'm going to go back to Desmos, click in that first cell, and then use the same command to paste the data. Control-V or Command-V if you're on a Mac. And now you can see that all of my data was pasted nice and neatly into a table, and I can see the scatter plot on the graph. Before we get started creating the regression model, let's go over to the upper right-hand side and click on the Graph Settings tool. Let's change the dimensions of the X and Y axis. I'm going to change the X-axis graph settings to range from -1 to 20, and I'm going to change the step to be in increments of 1. And for the Y-axis, I'm going to change the graph settings to range from -1,000 to 14,000 with a step increase of 1,000. Now we have our scatter plot. Let's go ahead and make our regression model. To create the regression model, using Desmos, go over to the left side of your table. If you hover the cursor, you should see a little sign pop up that says Add Regression. Go ahead and click on that. Now, Desmos does a lot of different types of regression, but it defaults to linear regression. We can export this equation to a new cell in our graph by clicking on the box right next to the word equation. Now we have the equation of our regression model, and the equation is y equals 355.95359x plus 7,377.66832. Now, if you're working on MyOpenMath and you need to copy and paste the coefficients, you can use your mouse to select those coefficients and copy and paste them into MyOpenMath. You may be asked to round the decimal values of your regression model to a specific place value. And if that's the case, go ahead and round to 2, 3, or 4 decimal places as directed in the problem. Now that we have found our model, let's use the model to investigate the value of our investment over time. Based on this regression model, let's determine the value of the investment in the year 1990. Let's round our answer to the nearest cent. In this case, we're asked to determine the value of the investment, that is a Y value, in the year 1990. The X values in our data represent the years since 1990. So 1990 is going to correspond to when X is 0. So essentially, this problem is asking for us to find Y when X is 0. Let's use our model to find Y. So we would plug in 0 for X. This would give me 355.95359 times 0 plus 7,377.66832. You should wait to round your answers until you've done all of the calculation. Now in this case, because we're just multiplying by 0 here, we know that Y is going to equal 7,377.67 rounding to the nearest cent. This represents the value of our investment in 1990. But let me go ahead and show you how you can get Desmos to do the number crunching for you. Let's go back to our model in Desmos. On the left-hand side, we had added our model to one of the new cells. Now let's go over, it says we have Y equals, but let's change that to f of x. Y is a function. By changing Y to f of x, this will allow us to evaluate the model. So if I want to find Y when X is 0, all I need to do is find f of 0. And it evaluates our model when X is 0, which of course we get $7,377.67, once again rounding to the nearest cent. Let's take a look at another question. This question says, based on the regression model, determine the rate of change of the investment each year. Round to 2 decimal places. In this case, we need to remember that rate of change refers to the slope of a linear model. So in this case, looking at our model, we find that the slope is 355.95, rounding to 2 decimal places. This means that the investment value is increasing, since it's positive, by $355.95 each year. To summarize, these are the steps to perform linear regression using Desmos. Step 1 is to enter the data into a table in Desmos. Then click the button to the top left of the table to add regression to the graph. Select linear regression from the pull-down menu, although that is the default setting. And then click the button to export the equation to the expression list. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching.